Before we get started showing how to attach the turntable to the layout and how to attach the shed to the turntable, there were 3 follow-up items that we wanted to cover. The first one was a question we got on the shed video, which was how much clearance is under the doors. The second thing we wanted to follow up on was the length of the turntable track. We got a comment that somebody thought that they wished it were longer to accommodate longer engines, and I realized that we didn't measure that, so we're going to take a look at that. And then the last thing was just something that we found in our little collection of power packs, and that was a power pack update to the turntable itself. So let's talk about those 3 follow-ups first, and then we'll go to putting the turntable on the layout. All right, so one of the questions that we got for the Tidmouth Sheds video was how much clearance is under the doors here. So the clearance would be this gap here between the bottom of the doors and the surface, the surface that you're working with, or the bottom of the shed here. By measuring from the bottom to the very bottom of the door, it's about 9/16, but that would be almost the exact measurement. So what I have under here is a 1/2-inch setup block. So this block here, this brass block, is a 1/2-inch square. So we know the dimensions of this. And that 1/2-inch block sits under there pretty well with, again, like about a 1/16 of an inch to spare. So, well, I think the accurate measurement is going to be 9/16 in height. I think your working height is going to be a 1/2 inch. Yeah, and I think that it accommodates the Bachmann track pretty readily, and that Bachmann Easy Track is pretty thick stuff, probably the thickest, I think, of the track that I've seen. So I think you'd be in good shape as long as you didn't go over a 1/2 inch in height. Okay, the next thing we wanted to follow up on was the actual length of the track and the turntable. So we didn't cover that actually in the turntable video. And then we got a comment from a poster who said that it would be nice if the turntable track length were longer. Something that we hadn't really considered, but it's true. It should be a little bit longer, because when we got that comment, we tested a couple of our locomotives, and a few of our locomotives are actually too long for this turntable. I mean, that's fine with us. We'll probably just put the little steam engines and switchers and the locomotives that fit inside the shed. So not too troubling for us, but something to be aware of if you are concerned with that. So the working length of this, and by working length, I mean where the track kind of breaks at the connection point here on either end, it's 10 inches, just so you know. So this will accommodate a 10-inch, up to a 10-inch locomotive. So we just wanted to follow up with that so you know what track length you're dealing with there. Okay, so the last thing we wanted to mention, and this didn't come from a question or a comment, this is just something that we found after we filmed the videos. But if you remember from the turntable instructions, that there's a power supply that's needed, and they recommended the power supply number 44211. It's right in the instructions here, as you can see. And so what we did was we just grabbed a regular power supply here from one of our Bachmann train sets, and as you can see, well, you probably can't tell from the instructions, but the accessory inputs here are a giveaway. This is not the one that's recommended in the instructions. This is a different one. It works fine, and that's what we were planning on using, but not the recommended ones. So after we shot the videos, Evan was digging around, and he actually found we had a 44211 power pack lying around. So we actually did have the correct power pack just lying around. Again, we didn't buy it for this purpose. It was just, it's just the recommended power supply. As a matter of fact, when we bought the turntable, we didn't even know you needed a power supply. But yeah, so we had a few of these lying around, and he checked our little stock of extra power packs and found the correct one. So we're just gonna go ahead and use the one that's recommended. Okay, with those 3 follow-ups out of the way, let's go ahead and attach the turntable to the layout and the sheds to the turntable and show you how all that works. All right, guys, so this is the turntable. It's sitting on the layout. So we're just going to show you quick how to go ahead and hook this up to your layout. There's really no trick to it. I mean, you can probably guess how to do this and the instructions tell you. But there is one important thing that you need to know when hooking this up. So this piece of track right here is the track that goes, the power track that goes out to the layout. And so you have to attach this track to a certain slot on the turntable in order for it to be completely powered. So what I'm going to do here is just count these. I'm just calling these slots here for lack of a better term. But if you'll notice here, I have the track hooked up to the third slot here. So we have first slot here, and we're working clockwise from the little shed here. But here's one, here's two, and here's three. Now what I want to point out here is that also you'll notice here the three is again kind of in line with the turntable and goes straight out to this piece of track here that will at some point in the video will be in the shed. Okay, so we're gonna run Ben up the track and onto the turntable, and we'll show you how it functions if you don't have the track, if you don't have the power track from the layout on the right track. So 3 is not the right one. So let's go ahead and run Ben. So you'll notice all is fine. He's crossing over, and he's crossing over onto the piece of track, which we would expect. Now I'm gonna back him up and I'm gonna put him back onto the turntable. And now what we're gonna do is turn the turntable so that the track is not aligned with 3. Because what we're doing right here with this track is we're making a perfect electrical connection right across. But the second that I take it off of the third piece here, I'm gonna go ahead and power up Ben. And you're gonna notice here, now I'm turning, Evan doesn't have it on camera here, but I'm turning the power on the power pack here, and we're getting nothing. Okay, so the reason for that is we are on the wrong slot. We're on slot number 3, and it's not 3 particularly, it's any one but the 4th slot here. This will work the same way if you're on every slot before. But you'll notice here, because the track is no longer making an electrical connection with the powered track, everything on the turntable is dead. Except for when it is aligned, it'll only go in a straight line when this track is aligned with the any slot but slot number 4. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the main track from slot number 3, and we're going to connect it to slot number 4, and look at that, we got a little help here. And then we're gonna run the train, we'll show you how everything should function. All right, so now notice that we have our main layout track going into slot number 4. So again, going clockwise from the shed, we have 1, 2, 3, and now it's on number 4. So what we'll do here is we'll run Ben up and just do the same thing. Notice here we're offset because we're on 4 now. We're no longer crossing the black track. So we had to add a gray piece of track with a bumper on it there. So yeah, so let's run Ben and you'll see how he... All right, so let's run Ben and we'll see how he performs on the turntable now that we have the power track hooked up to the right slot on the turntable. So, whoops, let's get Ben going in the right direction. Coming around the switch, and you'll see the turntable's all powered up, and he's going into that little siding there, just as we would expect. Now, we'll back him onto the turntable, and we'll change the turntable position. So now notice here that the turntable is no longer making contact, like direct electrical contact, with slot number 4. Okay, but we can still run Ben, and he will actually go right into that slot. And if we back Ben up, we can go ahead and change the track position again. And you'll see here that he'll run into just about any, not just about any slot, he'll literally run into any slot here. And so while we're using the 5 or 6 slots that have track on them, you know, he'll work with any of these slots, you know, that, oh no, he'll work with any of these slots that don't have track. So the takeaway here with this demonstration is that it's important, especially if you're in DC mode. I can't speak for how DCC works because we don't have this set up for DCC, but in DC mode, you have to have your track power going into slot number 4. And then the whole turntable will be powered no matter what position it is relative to that powered piece of track. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and set her up with the sheds, and we'll put some pieces of track out here with the bumpers so that you can see what it might look like all played out here, and you'll get a good sense of what it will look like on the layout. Now this isn't necessarily the way you would do it on your layout. We're just doing one powered track in for now, and then just a bunch of bumpers, and then the shed off to one side. But at least you'll get a good sense of how it will look, how it will function on your railroad.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right, so here's our turntable and shed setup. It's all put together here, and you can see the shed is sitting right on those 5 pieces of black track. Now remember, the black track came with the shed, not the turntable, just so that, you know, if you're putting this together here. But anyway, so shed looks really nice. We have, you know, the 5 slots here. Now, one thing I want to point out is that on the bottom of these, of the turntable here, actually you can see them right here. You can see these like little indentations here, kind of slots or fluting or whatever, however you want to put it. Those are also over here, and the little things that hold the hinge on the doors, there's a pair on each one at the bottom. Those actually fit right into, or slide right into, they're not fastened in there or fixed in there in any way, but they do receive the shape of the bottom of the hinge there so that you can get that right up nice and tight. And then you know that if they're all in their slots, that the doors are fitting where they should. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good. You can also see here that we have track with bumpers out there just to kind of finish off the look. Now this isn't where it's going to stay, so you can see here we've got some pretty short track. We just threw the bumpers on there just to neaten it up and make sure all the slots were accounted for, but this will probably be pushed back a little bit, or even go in another part of the layout where we can take more advantage of these. But for now, I think it illustrates the point. So why don't we go ahead and take Douglas, and we'll back him into the shed, and then we'll put in some more locomotives and fill that shed up. So we'll get Douglas close here. Then we spent quite a bit of time on the wiring of the turntable in the turntable video, but all that wiring still applies here. You can see our switches are here. None of the wiring is hidden or anything like that. But yeah, so let's use our little switch here and turn the turntable. Get Douglas on there. Now we'll back them all the way in, and those doors will shut. You know, they're not completely reliably spring-loaded. They will kind of stick, but again, for the price point, I think that's something we would expect. But yeah, let's see if we can't get Donald to peek out there a little bit. All right. Now we'll turn our turntable back here. And let's get another engine. I think I mistakenly referred to Douglas as Donald. Might have mixed those up. Now, the one thing I want you to notice here is that only the piece of track, once you're off of slot 4, so there's no electrical connection here, only the track connected to the turntable will move. So let's see, who is this? This is Douglas here. So Douglas will stay parked. He won't move even though the turntable is kind of fully charged here, because the turntable isn't connecting with him. He'll stay parked, which is nice because you don't want, in DC, every engine on the track will move, typically, but this turntable kind of controls that a little bit in that while the turntable track is charged or electrified with everything it's connected to, anything that's not won't move. So we can go ahead and manipulate our trains here. And we'll back him in, and then you'll notice the other train didn't move. Typical Thomas fashion here, we'll just have them poking their heads out. And let's grab another locomotive. All right, let's park James. Okay, so there is one little drawback that we just want you to be aware of when you use the turntable. Now, we said that when the turntable isn't connected to a piece of track, like it's not connected here to any of those 3 engines, those 3 engines will stay parked while the rest of the turntable will still connect with any piece of track that it's connected to. But there is one thing to watch out for, especially when you have pieces of track that are right across from each other. So what we're going to do here is we'll put this locomotive here on the turntable. And we'll park him. So we'll move him right out just to about the center there so he has room in both directions to go. Now what we're going to do is put a second locomotive and park him in the exact opposite, and you'll see what happens. So we'll go with our second locomotive here. So notice here that we have 2 locomotives that are kind of connected to on 2 different slots here, opposite each other. So there's a nice continuous connection made from that side to this side. So when we go to move the locomotive, we'll try to back the locomotive off of the turntable to park it on the far side there. You'll watch what happens. Both locomotives move. So when the turntable track is connected to 2 pieces of track right across from each other, it's all powered, even though, again, these ones here don't move because there's no connection. So that's just something to be aware of. I think we can work around that. It's just kind of a minor inconvenience. I'm sure that there are ways that we could go about fixing that, whether it's using an insulated connector and then powering these individually, you know, we can try something like that. But again, just something to be aware of. So in the meantime, what we'll do is we shall move both of those locomotives forward, and then we'll just park Ben elsewhere. And there you have it. That is the turntable and how you can hook it up to your main railroad layout. Again, just as a reminder, the whole turntable will be powered if it's hooked up to slot number 4. Otherwise, none of these tracks will be powered if the turntable isn't, if one side of the turntable isn't against slot number 4. Yeah, I think it's gonna work good for us. So anyway, that's the video. I hope you found our video on the Tidmouth Shed assembly and unboxing, the turntable assembly unboxing, and then this final video of putting it all together on the layout helpful. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.